A routine flight turned into a nightmare at 39,000 feet. 187 passengers faced certain death as the engine exploded and the captain collapsed. But a quiet woman in seat 18D possessed skills no civilian should have. When fighter jets arrived and spoke her legendary military call sign over the radio, everyone realized their savior's true identity. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The coffee was terrible, but Emma Carter drank it anyway. Seat 18D on Flight 619 wasn't uncomfortable, just ordinary. The Boeing 777 hummed steadily at 38,000 feet, carrying 187 passengers from Los Angeles to Tokyo across the vast Pacific Ocean. Emma looked like everyone else. Jeans, a gray sweater, a paperback novel in her lap. Nothing special. Nothing that would make anyone look twice. That's exactly how she wanted it. More coffee? The flight attendant smiled warmly. Please, Black, Emma said, returning the smile. The woman next to her, a businesswoman named Sarah, glanced over. First time to Tokyo? No, I've been a few times, Emma replied casually. Visiting some old friends. What do you do for work? Emma gave her rehearsed answer. Aviation consulting. Pretty boring stuff, mostly safety reviews and paperwork. Sarah laughed. Better than my accounting job. At least you get to travel. They chatted for a few more minutes before Sarah put on her headphones. Emma returned to her book, settling into the quiet rhythm of the flight. She expected nothing unusual. Just another flight, another city, another quiet week in her new civilian life. She didn't talk about her past. She never mentioned the 16 years flying F-16 Fighting Falcons. She never discussed the 4 combat deployments, the medals in a box at home, or the missions that tested every limit she had. And she definitely never mentioned her call sign, Phoenix. Emma earned that name during her second deployment. Her aircraft took catastrophic damage during a mission over hostile territory. Everyone thought she was gone. But Emma brought that crippled fighter home through a sandstorm with half her instruments dead and fuel bleeding from a damaged tank. After that day, her squadron called her Phoenix. The pilot who rose from impossible situations. She retired 2 years ago at 40. The decision hurt. Flying fighters was everything to her. But after 16 years of combat stress and constant deployments, Emma wanted something different. She wanted normal. She wanted quiet mornings and weekends without alerts. She wanted to be just another person. So she became a consultant, advising aviation companies on safety protocols. Nobody in her new life knew about Phoenix. Nobody knew about the distinguished flying cross in her closet. Emma liked it that way. At 39,000 feet, Emma felt something wrong. It was subtle. Most passengers wouldn't notice. But Emma's body was trained to detect the smallest change in an aircraft. The vibration in the fuselage was off. The engine sound had shifted slightly. She closed her book and listened carefully. Then everything exploded. A massive bang shook the aircraft. The plane lurched violently left. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Passengers screamed. The cabin pressure alarm blared through the chaos. Emma's training kicked in instantly. She grabbed her oxygen mask and secured it with practiced speed. Through her window, she saw the problem immediately. The left engine was disintegrating. Chunks of metal flew past the wing. Flames shot from the engine cowling. Worse, she could see a stream of hydraulic fluid spraying from the wing root. The captain's voice came over the speakers, trying to sound calm, but Emma heard the stress underneath. Ladies and gentlemen, we've experienced an engine failure. Please remain calm and keep your oxygen masks on. Emma's mind shifted into combat mode. She analyzed the situation with cold precision. One engine out was manageable. But hydraulic damage was serious. And from the way the aircraft was moving, she knew the pilots were fighting control problems. The plane began descending rapidly. The nose dropped sharply. Through the jerky movements, Emma could tell the pilots were struggling badly. A flight attendant rushed past, her face pale with terror. Emma reached out and caught her arm gently but firmly. "Listen to me carefully," Emma said, her voice cutting through the chaos with absolute calm. "I need you to take me to the cockpit right now." The attendant stared at her. "I can't just." "Look at me," Emma interrupted, her voice commanding but not harsh. "I'm a military pilot with 16 years of emergency experience. Tell the pilots that Captain Emma Carter, call sign Phoenix, is on board and can help. Do it now." Something in Emma's eyes made the attendant nod. She grabbed the intercom phone and called the cockpit. 30 seconds later, the cockpit door opened. Emma pushed through into the cockpit. The scene was chaos. The captain, a man in his 50s, was slumped unconscious in his seat. The first officer, a young woman named Lisa Park, was fighting the controls alone. Sweat poured down her face. Tears streamed from her eyes. "I can't hold it," Lisa sobbed. "The hydraulics are failing. Controls aren't responding. We're going down." Emma moved quickly. She checked the captain's pulse. Still alive, probably a heart attack from stress. She carefully moved him from the seat and laid him on the floor. Then she dropped into the captain's seat. "First Officer Park," Emma said, her voice steady and commanding. "My name is Emma Carter. I'm a former Air Force fighter pilot with 3,000 hours in high-performance aircraft. I'm taking command. We're going to get through this together." Lisa looked at her with desperate hope. "The hydraulics are gone. Left engine is out. Flight controls barely responding. We're losing altitude fast." Emma's hands found the controls. Her feet found the pedals. Her eyes scanned the instruments with speed born from thousands of hours of practice. The panel was lit up with warning lights. But Emma had seen worse. Much worse. "Here's what's happening," Emma said calmly. "The engine failure took out hydraulic lines. We have significant wing damage. The thrust from the good engine is trying to roll us. But we still have some control. We still have options." She pulled back the right throttle, reducing the thrust imbalance. Her hands worked the trim controls with precision. The aircraft's roll slowed. The descent rate decreased slightly. "Current altitude?" Emma asked. 26,000 feet, Lisa answered, her voice shaking. "Descending at 2,000 feet per minute." "Good. Get on the radio. Declare an emergency. Tell them we need immediate vectors to the nearest suitable airport. Tell them we have 187 souls on board and we need every piece of emergency equipment they have." While Lisa transmitted the emergency call, Emma continued working the aircraft. She experimented with different control inputs, building a mental picture of what was still working. The ailerons barely responded, but the rudder still had authority. She could work with that. "Los Angeles Center, this is Flight 619 Heavy," Lisa transmitted, her voice stronger now. "We are declaring an emergency. Catastrophic engine failure with multiple system damage. One engine out, hydraulics failing, flight controls compromised. 187 souls on board. Requesting vectors to nearest suitable airport." The radio crackled. "Flight 619, Los Angeles Center copies your emergency. Nearest suitable airport is Edwards Air Force Base, 200 miles northeast. Recommend heading 045. How do you assess your ability to maintain flight?" Emma took the microphone. "Center, this is the assisting pilot. I'm a former Air Force fighter pilot with extensive emergency experience. We're maintaining controlled flight with significant difficulty. I estimate we can hold this together for approximately 90 minutes if we don't get more failures. Request military coordination." My call sign is Phoenix and I may need procedures outside normal protocols. There was a pause. Emma knew they were checking her credentials. Fighter pilot call signs were documented. They would verify her identity quickly. A new voice came on the radio, sharp and professional. Phoenix, this is Raptor operations at Edwards Air Force Base. We have your emergency and we're launching fighters now for escort and support. Confirm you're taking command of the aircraft. Raptor operations, affirmative. I'm assuming command due to captain incapacitation and critical systems failure. I need vectors to Edwards and full emergency protocols. Also need those fighters on station as soon as possible. I can't see the full extent of our wing damage from inside. Copy that, Phoenix. Fighters launching now. Should be on station in 30 minutes. Turn heading 045. Maintain best altitude possible. We're rolling every piece of emergency equipment we have. Emma looked at Lisa. First Officer Park, you're doing great. I need you to stay on the controls with me. Monitor our fuel state and call out any changes in aircraft behavior. Can you do that? Lisa nodded, her confidence growing. Yes, Captain. Fuel shows 42,000 pounds remaining. Current consumption gives us about 2 hours endurance with one engine. Excellent. Keep monitoring that closely. Emma settled into the rhythm of flying the damaged aircraft. It was like wrestling something alive and angry. Every few seconds required a new control input. The aircraft wanted to roll left. The nose wanted to drop. But Emma refused to let it win. She talked Lisa through everything she was doing. See how I'm using rudder instead of aileron? The hydraulic damage means the ailerons are nearly useless. But the rudder still works. I'm basically flying this like a fighter with battle damage. You work with what you have. Minutes passed. Emma's arms began to ache from constant pressure on the controls, but she never let up. Never showed fatigue. She kept her voice calm and professional. The cabin was in controlled chaos. Flight attendants were preparing for possible emergency evacuation. Passengers were crying, praying, holding hands. But Emma's voice over the intercom, calm and absolutely confident, gave them hope. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the pilot speaking. We have experienced engine damage, but we are in full control of the aircraft. We are diverting to Edwards Air Force Base where we will make a precautionary landing. I need everyone to remain calm and follow all crew instructions. We are going to get through this together. 30 minutes later, two shapes appeared in the distance. They grew rapidly larger, becoming sleek angular forms that Emma recognized immediately. F-22 Raptors, the most advanced fighter jets in the world. The lead pilot came up on the radio. Phoenix, this is Eagle Flight of 2, on station and ready to provide support. Requesting permission to perform visual inspection of your aircraft. Emma felt a wave of emotion. Relief, gratitude, connection to a world she thought she'd left behind. Eagle Flight, Phoenix. Cleared for inspection. Need detailed assessment of left wing damage, particularly the engine pylon and wing root area. One F-22 broke formation and slid underneath the 777. Then it pulled up alongside, close enough that Emma could see the pilot clearly. The fighter stayed there for nearly a minute while the pilot examined the damage. The voice that came back was grim. Phoenix, Eagle 2. Your damage is extensive. The engine pylon is partially separated. You have a 6-foot section of leading edge missing. I can see hydraulic fluid streaming from multiple locations. The wing root shows visible deformation. Honestly, I'm amazed you're maintaining controlled flight. Emma keyed the mic. Eagle 2, assessment on structural integrity for landing loads. Am I going to lose this wing when I touch down? A pause. Phoenix, the engineering team says the wing structure appears compromised but intact. They recommend minimum speed on approach, gentle touchdown, maximum aerodynamic braking. You basically get one chance. A go-around might cause catastrophic structural failure. Emma absorbed this calmly. Eagle flight, copy all. One chance to get it right. I need you both to stay with me all the way to the field. I'll need real-time position updates since some of my instruments are unreliable. Phoenix, you have us all the way. Whatever you need. The flight to Edwards took an hour. Every minute tested Emma's endurance and skill. Her arms screamed with fatigue. Her legs burned from constant rudder pressure. But she never wavered. She kept Lisa involved in every decision. She had Lisa coordinate with the cabin crew, making sure passengers were prepared for emergency landing. She turned their two-person team into an efficient unit. Emma also spoke to the passengers again. This is your pilot speaking. I know this has been frightening, but I want you to understand what's happening. We have two excellent fighter pilots flying alongside us. We have the best emergency crews waiting at Edwards Air Force Base. And I have 16 years of experience handling aircraft emergencies. I've been in worse situations and always brought everyone home. Today will be no different. Trust me, trust your crew, and we'll all walk away from this together. In the cabin, passengers held hands with strangers. Some prayed. Some cried quietly. But Emma's voice, so calm and confident, gave them something to hold on to. They believed her because she believed herself. As they approached Edwards, Emma began the most critical phase. Setting up for the landing approach. Okay, Lisa, Emma said. Here's how this works. I'm hand-flying this approach from 10 miles out. No automation. You're going to call out altitudes, airspeeds, and distances. When I tell you, you'll put the gear down and extend flaps in small increments. We're landing with minimum flaps to reduce stress on that damaged wing. Our touchdown speed will be about 30 knots faster than normal. Questions? No questions, Lisa said firmly. I'm with you. The approach began. Emma hand flew with absolute precision. She felt every nuance of the aircraft through the controls. She compensated for the damaged wing, the reduced lift, the asymmetric drag. Eagle 1 and 2 flanked them in formation, calling out position updates. Phoenix, Eagle 1. 10 miles from threshold, centered on approach path. Looking good. Gear down, Emma commanded. Lisa moved the gear lever. The rumble of extending landing gear shook the aircraft. Emma compensated smoothly. Flaps 10. More drag. More control changes. Emma's hands moved constantly, making tiny adjustments. 5 miles, on speed, on glide slope, Lisa called out. Flaps 20. The wings shuddered as the damaged structure took increased loads. But it held. 3 miles, 190 knots. They were coming in fast. But Emma needed that speed margin. 2 miles, 180 knots, on centerline. Eagle 1's voice came through. Phoenix, beautiful approach. You're in the slot. 1 mile to threshold. Emma's world narrowed to the runway ahead, the instruments, the feel of the controls. Half mile. 400 feet above ground. 300 feet. 200 feet. Throttle idle, Emma commanded. Lisa pulled the throttle back. The aircraft floated. Emma held the nose up gently, bleeding off speed, feeling for the perfect moment. The main gear kissed the runway with barely a bump. Emma let the nose gear settle 5 seconds later. Then she deployed the spoilers to dump lift and create drag. The aircraft rumbled down the runway, slowing gradually. 60 knots. 40 knots. 20 knots. They rolled to a complete stop with 3,000 feet of runway remaining. Emma sat back, her hands shaking now with adrenaline release. They had made it. 187 lives saved. Eagle One's voice came over the radio, filled with emotion. Phoenix, Eagle One. That was magnificent flying. One of the finest displays of airmanship I've ever witnessed. Welcome to Edwards. Eagle Two added, Phoenix, all respect. That was legendary. You just saved 187 souls with flying that belongs in the textbooks. Emma keyed the mic, her voice rough with emotion. Eagle Flight, thanks for the support. Couldn't have done it without you. The F-22s pulled up and away, their afterburners lighting as they climbed in salute. Emergency vehicles surrounded the aircraft, but there was no fire, no injuries beyond the unconscious captain. Just 187 grateful people who would get to go home to their families. Lisa was staring at Emma with tears in her eyes. You saved us. You saved all of us. Who are you really? Emma managed a tired smile. Just a pilot who used to fly fighters and happened to be in the right place at the right time. But the truth was spreading rapidly. Within hours, the story was everywhere. News crews arrived. Social media exploded. Former Air Force fighter pilot saves entire flight using combat training. Call sign Phoenix becomes legend again. 3 hours later, something extraordinary happened. A transport aircraft landed at Edwards carrying senior Air Force officers. Among them was General Sarah Thompson, who had been Emma's wing commander during her third deployment. They gathered on the tarmac. General Thompson stepped forward, her uniform crisp, her bearing proud. Captain Carter, what you accomplished today represents the highest traditions of military aviation excellence applied to save civilian lives. You took command of an impossible situation and brought 187 people home safely through superior airmanship and sheer determination. Eagle 1 and 2 had returned to Edwards. The two pilots approached in their flight suits. Eagle 1 came to attention. Captain Carter, when we heard your call sign over the radio, when we realized Phoenix was up there fighting to save that aircraft, everyone knew those passengers had the best possible chance. General Thompson continued. Your call sign, Phoenix, was earned during your most difficult deployment. You flew missions other pilots thought were impossible. You brought yourself home every time. Today, you proved that those skills don't fade when you take off the uniform. Then something extraordinary happened. Over the tactical radio frequency, fighter pilots from bases across the region began speaking. One by one, call signs honored her. Phoenix, Viper 3-3. The fighter community salutes you. Phoenix, Falcon 111. You showed us all how it's done. Phoenix, Eagle 07. Legend confirmed. The voices continued. Emma stood at attention, accepting this recognition with grace and humility. First Officer Lisa stood nearby, finally understanding exactly who had been sitting in the cockpit beside her. Later, passengers approached to thank Emma personally. An elderly man with tears in his eyes said, I was flying to see my grandchildren. Because of you, I'll get to hold them. Thank you. A young mother with a baby said, you gave my daughter her life. How can I ever thank you enough? Emma took their hands gently. You just did. Get home to your families. That's all the thanks I need. That evening, Emma stood alone on the tarmac, looking at the damaged 777. Her attempt to live quietly had been shattered. Now the world knew about Phoenix. Knew about the fighter pilot legend. General Thompson approached. You okay, Emma? Emma turned with a complicated smile. I spent 2 years trying to be normal, Sarah. Trying to be just another person. I thought I'd left Phoenix behind. Thompson nodded. But Phoenix was never just a call sign. It's who you are. The person who rises from impossible situations. You can't leave that behind. Emma looked back at the aircraft. 187 people are alive because of skills I learned in combat. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's not about leaving Phoenix behind. Maybe those skills are meant to be used when they're needed. Thompson smiled. After today, the whole world knows that when they needed a legend most, one was sitting in seat 18D. 6 months later, Emma stood before graduating Air Force Academy cadets. Excellence isn't something you achieve once and set aside, she told them. It's a standard you carry every day. The skills we develop don't belong only to the military. They belong to life itself. The cadets gave her a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. First Officer Lisa, now promoted to captain, stood at the back watching. She had visited Emma several times, building a friendship forged in crisis. As they walked together afterward, Lisa asked, "Do you ever regret leaving the Air Force?" Emma looked at the sky, watching training jets streak overhead. "I used to think I gave something up when I retired. But that day taught me something important. I didn't leave anything behind. Everything I learned is still part of me. Phoenix isn't just my past. It's who I am." She smiled. And sometimes, when the world needs it, Phoenix shows up. Later, Emma received a message from Eagle One. "Phoenix, just wanted you to know. We brief your Edwards landing in our squadron now as the gold standard for emergency airmanship. You're officially in our training curriculum." Emma smiled, realizing her legacy wasn't just about the past. It was about inspiring the future. Showing the next generation what was possible when skill met courage and refusal to quit. 1 year after the incident, Emma received an unexpected phone call. It was from Sarah, the businesswoman who had been sitting next to her in seat 18E that day. "Captain Carter, I hope you remember me. I was sitting next to you. I wanted to tell you something important. After that day, after watching you save all of us, I made some changes in my life. I realized I was wasting time on things that didn't matter. I went back to school. I'm training to become an emergency medical technician now. You showed me that one person with the right skills and courage can make all the difference. I want to be that person for someone else." Emma felt tears in her eyes. "Sarah, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." That's exactly what that day was supposed to mean. Not just about survival, but about living with purpose. The calls and letters kept coming. A teenage girl wrote that she had decided to join the Air Force Academy after reading about Emma's story. A retired pilot wrote that Emma had inspired him to volunteer as a flight instructor for underprivileged youth. A mother wrote that she told her daughters about Phoenix every night, teaching them that heroes come in quiet packages and that excellence requires dedication. Emma's consulting business evolved. She began speaking at aviation safety conferences, not just about technical procedures, but about the mental preparation required for emergencies. She talked about staying calm when everyone else panics, about making decisions with incomplete information, about never giving up when lives depend on you. Airlines started requesting her specifically to review their emergency training programs. Emma would spend weeks with pilot training centers, working with instructors to build better simulation scenarios. She insisted on realistic stress, on teaching pilots to think clearly when everything is falling apart. "Don't just teach them the procedures," Emma would tell instructors. "Teach them to be comfortable with fear. Teach them that their hands might shake, but their minds can stay clear. Teach them that impossible just means nobody has done it yet." First Officer Lisa became one of Emma's closest friends. They met for coffee every month, sometimes talking about flying, often just talking about life. Lisa had handled 2 more emergencies in her career since that day. Both times staying calm and professional. Both times bringing everyone home safely. "I think about that day constantly," Lisa told Emma over coffee one afternoon. "Not the fear, but the way you handled it. The way you made me feel capable even when I was terrified. I use those lessons every time I fly now. Even on normal flights, I think about what Phoenix would do." Emma squeezed her hand. "You were already capable, Lisa. I just helped you see it. That's what good leaders do. They don't make people better. They show people how good they already are. 2 years after the incident, Emma was invited to the Pentagon. In a private ceremony, the Secretary of Defense presented her with a special civilian commendation for valor. The citation read, "For extraordinary heroism and exceptional airmanship in saving 187 lives through the application of military aviation skills in a civilian emergency. Captain Carter's actions represent the highest ideals of service to others." But the moment that meant most to Emma came afterward. A young female F-22 pilot approached her nervously. She couldn't have been more than 25 years old. Her flight suit was crisp, her bearing confident but respectful. "Captain Carter, ma'am," the young pilot said. "I'm Lieutenant Angela Martinez. My call sign is Ember. I just wanted to tell you that you're the reason I'm standing here. I read about you when I was 17. I decided that day I wanted to be like Phoenix. I wanted to be someone who could save lives through excellence and courage. I made it through the academy. I earned my wings. And I earned my call sign through a mission that almost went bad but didn't, because I remembered what you said in an interview. You said that panic is just fear without a plan. So I made a plan, and I brought everyone home." Emma pulled the young pilot into a hug. "Lieutenant Martinez, Ember is a beautiful call sign. You earned it through your own courage and skill. I'm honored that I inspired you, but you did the hard work. You became excellent through your own dedication. Be proud of that." As Emma left the Pentagon that day, she thought about legacy. It wasn't about the medals or the news stories or the documentary that had been made about her. Legacy was Angela Martinez in her F-22, carrying forward the standard of excellence. Legacy was Sarah saving lives as an EMT. Legacy was Lisa Park teaching younger pilots through her example. Legacy was the teenage girl who would join the academy next year because she believed she could be Phoenix too. Emma returned to her quiet life in San Diego, but it was different now. She no longer hid who she was. When people asked what she did before consulting, she told them proudly about her Air Force career. She wore her Phoenix patch on her flight jacket. She accepted invitations to speak to young people about service and excellence. On the third anniversary of the incident, all 187 passengers received a letter from Emma. It was simple and heartfelt. 3 years ago, we shared an experience that none of us will ever forget. I think about that day often, not with pride in what I did, but with gratitude for what we all became. We became a community bound by survival and hope. You trusted me with your lives, and that trust made me better than I thought I could be. I hope that day reminded you, as it reminded me, that life is precious and every moment matters. Live fully. Love deeply. And remember that you are stronger than you know. With respect and affection, Emma Carter. Phoenix. The responses flooded back. Hundreds of messages of gratitude. Updates on lives lived fully because of second chances. Children born and marriages celebrated and dreams pursued because 187 people got to go home that day. Emma kept every message. On difficult days, she read them and remembered why excellence matters. Why training matters. Why refusing to quit matters. Somewhere, young pilots were learning from her example. Carrying forward the standard of excellence that defined the call sign Phoenix. And that, Emma thought, was worth more than any medal. The legend had not retired. It had simply waited for the moment it was needed most. And when that moment came, Phoenix rose from the ashes once again. And in rising, Phoenix lit a fire that would burn in the hearts of future heroes forever. Inspiring them to reach higher, try harder, and never accept defeat when lives depend on excellence. Because that's what Phoenix means. Not just rising from disaster. But showing others they can rise too. 5 years after that fateful day, Emma received a special invitation. Flight 619's route was being honored with a memorial flight, and the airline wanted her to be aboard. Not as a passenger this time, but in the cockpit. Lisa Park, now a senior captain, would be flying. "It wouldn't feel right without you, Phoenix," she said over the phone. "This flight belongs to both of us." On the day of the memorial flight, Emma walked through the terminal. People recognized her now. They smiled, nodded respectfully. Some approached to shake her hand. She accepted it all with the same humble grace she'd always shown. In the cockpit, Emma sat in the observer's seat. Lisa handled the controls with confidence and skill. As they climbed through 38,000 feet, Lisa keyed the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, 5 years ago on this exact route, something remarkable happened. A hero was sitting in seat 18D. Today, that hero is here in the cockpit with us. Captain Emma Carter, call sign Phoenix, who showed us all what courage and excellence truly mean." The passengers erupted in applause that lasted for minutes. Emma felt tears in her eyes. She looked out at the endless sky, the same sky she'd flown through in fighters, the same sky where she'd fought to save 187 lives. She realized then that she'd never really retired. A pilot doesn't stop being a pilot. Phoenix doesn't stop being Phoenix. The fire burns forever, waiting for the moment it's needed. And when that moment comes, true legends answer the call. Always.